What's up? It's Andy Grammer with Jag.
Hi, this is Carly Rae Jepsen, and you're listening to Jag.
Hey everybody, it's Joe Jonas hanging with Jag.
This is Heather Knox with the hottest Jag I've ever seen.
Ryan Seacrest with Jag.
It's B.O.B. checking in with my homie Jag. So much swag with my homie Jag.
It's the Jag Show podcast.
So in tomorrow's podcast with David Yas, we get into the art of interviewing. And my interview in New Orleans with Mick Foley came up in conversation. In this interview that was about 20 minutes long, I think I spoke for maybe 2 minutes because I just sat there and hung on his every word. And there's an art to interviewing where if you have a guest that is that dynamic, you just get the heck out of the way. So since I reference it in tomorrow's show, I thought I would put it out as a bonus episode right now. So here it is from 2014, my interview with Mick Foley. Voodoo 104 here with WWE legend Mick Foley. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, thank you.
Appreciate you taking a few minutes.
You got it, man. WWE's making me. I have no say in this, so thank them, not me.
Sounds like a plan.
The adrenaline is going to kick in because this is like the official start to WrestleMania, which is obviously the biggest event in WWE.
Absolutely, and we're really excited about it. You and I actually do have an upstate New York connection because I went to Syracuse, so we have a little bit in common there.
Oh, yeah. So I was 30 miles south and $30,000 a year cheaper.
It worked out better for you than it did for
me.
me.
I was at Cortland, yeah. No, yeah. Syracuse, I was just up there a few months ago. I still have a lot of family in the area.
So I was going to ask you where you've eaten, but if you just got into town, you probably haven't had a chance to eat yet, have you?
You know what I did? I had some jambalaya pasta. Jambalaya pasta was excellent. I was told that the restaurant was one of the finest Cajun experiences in all of. Now, will people single me out because I'm actually pronouncing New Orleans the way it's spelled?
God bless you for it.
Because there are some cities, I realized this when I was in Australia, it's like the way you show you're from there is by completely mispronouncing it.
New Orleans, not New Orleans or Nolans, stuff like that.
Well, when we did our tribute to the troops last year, I know for a fact that we were in Norfolk, Virginia, but we were forced to say Norfolk.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly.
And I got to tell you, we're driving by the Superdome, and man, it just looks spectacular. I haven't been here in a couple of years, and the last time I saw the Superdome, it was in some rough shape. So you guys done a tremendous job here, right here in New Orleans.
There you go. What's really cool, too, is, and you'll see this at the event later this afternoon, is the Superdome looks awesome during the day, but now at night they light it up in Mardi Gras colors and New Orleans colors, and it's fantastic to see, and you'll be looking right across the way at it from Champion Square as the sun gets down tonight, so it's going to be awesome.
All right, I can't wait. It's going to be really exciting.
17-time champion of various wrestling leagues. Congratulations also last year on being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thank you.
But I think what's fascinating to our listeners, before we get into all the wrestling stuff, is you being a best-selling author and all the charity work that you've done. Did you expect when you wrote a book to be a New York Times best-selling author?
No, because, the conventional wisdom was that no one was going to read a book about wrestling, and especially not one that a wrestler actually wrote himself. So I was really proud of the fact that when my book hit number one on that list, that all the presidential candidates had their books out. All the guys that were going to be running for president in 2000 had their memoirs out in 99. And with the exception of one senator, Bill Bradley, the former New York Knick, all of their books have been ghostwritten. Mm-hmm. You know the country's in trouble when a wrestler is doing his own work and the future presidents are having somebody else. Ghostwriting is basically what you would be thrown out of school for. It's basically somebody doing the work and you taking the credit for it.
Oh, right, absolutely.
I was so obviously, I'm very proud of that, and I'm glad that people chose to read it, but we didn't think that was going to be the case. I just did it because I felt like I had a good story to tell and that I could tell it.
So you've got the autobiography, and then can you tell me a little bit about the children's book, too?
Yeah, that first book in 1999 really opened up a lot of doors for me. So therefore, I may have had wild thoughts before, but I didn't have the the credentials to present them credibly. So when I woke up and I just decided I was going to be America's most beloved author of children's Christmas books, all of a sudden it didn't sound quite as ridiculous, So I took a stab at it. I ended up doing fourth children's book, a much better Christmas book last year with WWE. They really fit in well with their Be a Star anti-bullying campaign called A Most Miserable Christmas, starring WWE superstar The Miz.
Wow, 4 children's books. That's incredible. And speaking of, children and bullying and everything, can you tell me a little bit about the RAIN organization that you're a part of? This is really something else, the charity work that you've been doing.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. And honestly, it sounds much better if you ask me about it and I answer than me saying, hey, let me tell you about it.
Sure.
And I have to make clear that when I talk specifically about the stuff I did with RAIN, that it's past tense, that I'm not actively volunteering on their hotline, but for 2 years I was an online crisis volunteer, so that when people who were survivors of sexual assaults, be they an hour ago or a decade ago, when they'd go on anonymously, I'd be one of those people that I really did my very best to help them. And I was just thinking today, I was just thinking about this, that I was RAIN's Volunteer of the Month one time, and that meant as much to me as any honor I've received in sports entertainment.
No, that's really incredible. People who aren't as familiar with your story think, wrestler, hardcore matches, all that sort of thing. But with the charity work and being a best-selling author, it's really quite impressive.
Well, I know people have their preconceptions about wrestlers and what they're like, but we're guys who've been given the opportunity to travel all around the world and meet people from all walks of life, and so I've learned a lot. Being on the road has been an amazing education, so that when I was volunteering, I did it with a really open mind and a complete, there was no assumptions or judgments. I took a lot of pride in the work that I did online.
Voodoo 104 and the Jag Show talking to Mick Foley about so many things. The big reason we're on the phone is the WWE Wrestlemania 30 ticket on sale event at Champion Square this afternoon. Can you talk about that and what to expect there?
If you're big fans, so please head down to Champ Square. I'll be there along with Booker T, Mark Henry with his new hairstyle, and Sheamus, Caitlyn, and Rey Mysterio as well. So we're looking to have a lot of fun, and we know we're going to see, the biggest fans who want to be there the most. And I'm bringing the Foley. So believe me, this event is so big that we don't get complimentary tickets to this to WrestleMania. Trust me, I've got the American Express bill to prove it. So this is an event that I stand behind, and it's a great event. You guys had the Super Bowl here, 1 or 2 years ago?
This past year, yeah.
Yeah, this past year. This is our Super Bowl, and I think it's a great way for the city to follow one amazing, spectacular event with another one.
And that's the thing is, provided we don't get sued for using those two words together by the NFL, that's we've had some issues with them down here over the last couple of years, as you might know.
Oh yeah, you're right, yeah.
That's the comparison everybody makes, is that this is, for anybody who's into sports entertainment, this is the Super Bowl. This is WrestleMania, and it's WrestleMania 30, so it's even bigger than it would be any other year, which is huge enough.
Yeah, it's really big. Now people are going to mock and deride me because I got inducted at Wimpy 29. But, no, it was great, and I can, so I know firsthand that the WrestleMania is more than just a one-night event. It's really, a week-long celebration, and you guys are known for your celebrations here, so
right.
I think it's going to work out really well.
And I'm going to tell you personally, my old college buddies, we all watched you together in your heyday, late 90s, early 2000s, and they've already booked their flights here for April. I
went to one time, to one of our access sessions, and it's amazing that you'll go through 2 hours and you will meet more people from out of the country than in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah, because it's such a destination for people to come to, and that's where it's not just a match. People aren't going to come from Australia for a match, but they will come for a week-long celebration. And so those are the people who are they're buying the travel packages and coming to all the events. They're great. I can't recommend the event highly enough. It's one of the things you have to experience. Like the Super Bowl is coming to New Jersey, Long Island guy. So I'd like to go to a Super Bowl because I've never been to one, but I want to know what that's like. And likewise, I think someone need not be a huge WWE fan or even know anything about it to have that experience, to just see firsthand, the the mania surrounding WrestleMania.
90s to now, Voodoo 104, Jag with WWE legend Mick Foley. Next thing I want to do is roll through some rapid-fire questions we got from our Facebook page from some listeners and some friends. Ready for that?
Okay, well, I'll do the best I can.
Kevin referenced the rock and sock combination from back in the day. Do you have a favorite unusual pairing of wrestlers, either yourself and somebody else, or two people that you saw get sort of thrown together from over the years?
Well, I loved Daniel Bryan and Kane. They've gone their separate ways, but that was just some great television. Those guys created some of those moments that remind me of why I still watch every week. I'm glued to the TV with my kids, and that was one of the reasons. It reminds me every once in a while of why I love sports entertainment.
Okay, Max wants to know one wrestler that you always wanted to step into the ring with but never were able to.
My answer used to be Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, and Bruiser Brody.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruiser Brody passed away, and I had a couple of really good matches with Ric Flair, and that means the one guy, honestly, I wish, just for history's sake, I'd step in the ring with would be Hulk Hogan.
Great answer. Stephanie wants to know the favorite match you've ever been in your career.
My favorite match ever was a very pretty physically grueling affair called Backlash in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
I was following up my first match in 4 years, which I was not happy with, and realized I had one more chance to redeem myself, and so I did in Edmonton against Randy Orton. It really holds up well today. It was not for the squeamish, though. Well,
as most of your matches were not for the squeamish. Is there any match in your career you wish you hadn't done?
Sure, yeah. I wish, like I said, it was a big deal for me to come out of retirement in 2004 after 4 years. And then it was a big deal when I wrestled Edge 2 years after that. And after that, it was no longer a big deal to see me in the ring. So I wish I'd called it a day somewhere around 2008 instead of 2012.
Fair enough. Who is the best talker in the WWE today on the mic?
Oh, man. CM Punk's interviews are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But at this point in time, Paul Heyman...
Still?
He's like a chameleon. Yeah, he's constantly changing. It's fascinating to me. So I'll go with Punk as a wrestler, and I'll go with Paul Heyman as a performer.
Okay. My favorite question, and I'm so glad he asked this, because this takes me back to a moment that was one of those you remember where you were moments, and you probably know where I'm going to go here. The Hell in the Cell with Undertaker.
Yes.
I love this question from Brian on our Facebook page. What was, if you remember, you may not even remember, what was said between the two of you on top of the Hell in the Cell before you went off the top? Remember what the conversation was?
Yeah, you know what? That's kind of one of those things I'm not going to share.
Okay.
Sorry. I'd rather leave that to people's imaginations.
My imagination would say, are you sure you want to do this? Please don't die, would be my guess. But
you know what? I do these kind of one-man shows around the country, and I do delve into that match quite a bit. It wasn't until last year that I really came to grips with its legacy, and that was due to the induction speech by Terry Funk with an N, just so you guys don't get slapped with an FCC fine. There's an N in there.
Appreciate that.
And comment that the Undertaker made to him after my trip through the cell really sent a chill down my spine. So not that I'm here plugging WrestleMania, don't get me wrong, but if any of you guys have a chance, and I'm hoping I do have a show, maybe on Thursday or Friday night of WrestleMania week, because I love telling stories.
Well, as a radio guy, it's all about the art of the tease, and if you're going to tell me that you're going to get into that match at your one-man show, I've already bought the tickets.
You got it, man.
That's fantastic. And I want to ask you about the conversation, let that be a private conversation between the two of you. But do you remember either the first fall, through the table, or the second fall through the cage into the ring? Do you remember at any point what was actually going through your mind as it was happening? Yeah,
that was the only time I was actually knocked unconscious.
And that was the second fall into the ring,
right? The second fall, and this is something I said in my Hall of Fame induction speech. I was out for length of time, and I didn't realize that in an attempt to buy me time. Now, let me make it clear that in today's day and age, something like that would result in the match being, called, right. Just boom, done, and that'd be the correct correct move.
Right.
But it wasn't the move that was made in '98, and so the ring filled up with people in an attempt to buy me time. The Undertaker chokeslammed Terry Funk with an N. In the process, Terry's sneakers came off. And so my first conscious thought was looking in the ring, rolling over and going, what are those shoes doing? I didn't know why there was a pair of shoes in the ring. That was my thought at the time, my primary thought. Even as the match continues, like, what are those shoes doing there?
It's funny how you get fixated on those little things. Obviously, it's such a grueling business, and probably can't think of anybody that's taken more physical punishment over a career than you certainly have. I mean, is it, when you hear about, NFL players having trouble getting out of bed after they retire and they get up early and that sort of thing. I mean, how are you holding up physically at this point?
Well, I'll tell you a story. This just happened. I just did some interviews for WB Network, and they touch you up a little bit, a little makeup, a little anti-shine, so that you don't glare on TV. And the makeup artist is not familiar with me, and she was raving about my flawless skin, and she couldn't believe that I was approaching 50. Mm-hmm. She must have complimented me on my flawless, youthful appearance. 4 or 5 times, and then when I got up to walk away, she went, "Oh, now I see." Like, there's the wear and tear, because I move slowly, and I don't need a lot of mementos in the Foley house. Guys come over and they're like, "Where's all your wrestling stuff?" And I'm like, I don't display anything. And they say, "Why not?" I said, "Well, I've got this thing that reminds me of my career." They go, "What's that?" I said, called getting out of bed.
Yikes.
Like, you get out, not one day where I go, hey, I wonder what I did for a living. It's pretty pronounced. But I knew that going in, that I had a physical style. I imagine, someone who plays football, basketball, real tough on the knees.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to a Broadway production every 4 or 5 years, and I can't really enjoy it because I'm like, wow, that's tough on the joints. I can see where a lot of sacrifices are made in various locations.
Was it worth it?
Yeah. It was worth it. I got to live out my dreams, and I wrestled 14 or 15 tours in Japan, and over there you'll see these women who are gnarled and hunched over because they've spent a lifetime in the rice paddies, and they're doing a lot worse than I am without the stories and the dreams. So there's a price to pay, and I paid it, but I don't think it was too steep.
Voodoo 104, Jag with Mick Foley. I asked this of everybody that I interview. Is there anything on your Wikipedia page that you know of that's not true?
Well, I'm not going to go with something that's not true. I'm just going to say there's so many useless facts in there that if people really do like me, just go in there and start. Nobody needs to know that I refereed an independent match between Jerry Lawler and King Kong Bundy in 2003, and no one needs to know that I made Eric Shelley wear a turkey costume. And there's just useless facts. I went on a trip to visit some of our wounded service members in San Antonio, Texas, a few years ago, and I went on the trip with the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I know it sounds like I'm dropping names, and I guess I am, but I remember just looking. The thing that spread fear into me is I see the vice chairman reading my Wikipedia, which is like 18 pages long. And I'm like, the vice chairman doesn't need to know that I refereed a match between Jerry Lawler and King Kong Bundy at a high school. So
that was the other thing I was going to say, is that you might have the longest Wikipedia page of anybody I've interviewed.
It's absolutely horrible, yeah. I think at one time, one of the facts was not true, is that I jokingly mentioned on social media that I was working on 7 new autobiographies simultaneously, and ended up being put in there.
Here with Mick Foley, what else can we expect at the Champion Square event 5 to 9 this afternoon?
Flawless skin.
Yes.
Just, come check out my complexion. It's stunning, and they actually put some mascara in my beard to make it look darker, and so I look like I'm 18 years old. I look like Benjamin Button out there. I'm turning back the hands of time. So yeah, just come out and say hello, and you'll also see me in a jacket and a tie as per Mr. McMahon's request. That's not my doing. So
I wasn't going to go here. It was one of our Facebook questions, but since you brought it up, I'll ask. A lot of wrestlers have come out and complained about the way the WWE has been run as of late. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, I love it. Honestly, I'm I do a variety of different things for them, but none of it requires me watching the show at home with my kids. I watch the show because I love it. Mm-hmm. I visited the soldiers at Bethesda. That was I asked, can I go visit? Because I was already doing the events for the USO, and I was going to Dubai to represent WWE for the video game, and I'll just call the community relations director and say, as long as I'm there, can I do a show for the troops?
Wow, all right.
Honestly, I love the company, and I love the fact that I don't have to be on their show to be making a contribution.
Okay, one last question. This came into our Facebook page from Mike, who's a rather tall guy. His question is, how weird is it that in the normal world you're 6'5", you're really tall, but in your field you're average height at best?
Yeah, well, first of all, I was never quite 6'5", but I'm not even 6'4" anymore. Gravity's taking its course.
Right.
It is crazy that the normal guy in WWE, I think the average height is 6'6", and a guy who's 6'8" or 6'9" is not considered to be that that tall in our dressing room. They're telling me I've got to run, but listen, I really appreciate it. I know you concentrate on the music, so I really appreciate the time you've given me and, by extension, WWE for this event.
And on a personal note, before I let you go, I spent many a nights in college with all my friends watching your stuff, and it's really cool to talk to you and some really great memories there. And I'm going to be there this afternoon, so look forward to meeting you in person.
Yeah, say hello. Please do.
All right, take care.
All right, have a nice day.
You too, Mick. Thanks.
Bye.
Of course he'd end it like that. Hope you enjoyed my interview with Mick Foley. Back tomorrow with a full episode of the Jag Show podcast with David Yas of Pod 617 and the Boston Podcast Network.
Thanks for listening to the Jag Show podcast. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe in Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes are published every Tuesday and Friday morning. For help with your podcast, find Jag on social media at Jag in Detroit or on the web at jagindetroit.com.